is Uncommon Sense.
What up?
We do a podcast about us. That has nothing to do with us. But yeah, so this is the intro that goes at the beginning of every video.
Yep.
Listen to whatever we have to talk about now.
Mine looks like the Voltron head.
I know, right? Because you got that. Hey, McCullers.
Alright, cool. I'm recording.
Hanzi hona bara akundiri botsan Hanzi akasara.
Alright, so this week I was listening to Joe Rogan has a new podcast out with Alex Jones. If you don't know who Alex Jones is, he's the what's it called? He's the crazy conspiracy theorist. If you don't know who he is, just Google "they're making the frogs gay." They're making the frogs gay. You'll get it later, and it'll be hilarious, and I'll seem really funny. But you have to Google it for me to see it funny.
And I'm not saying people didn't naturally have homosexual feelings. I'm not even getting into it. Quite frankly, I mean, give me a break. You think I am like, shocked by it, so I'm up here bashing it because I don't like gay people? I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap. I'm sick of being social engineered. It's not funny.
Anyway, he's like a crazy conspiracy theorist, and so most of the time I would never give him any time of my day to listen to what he has to say, but because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I kind of have a deference for Joe Rogan and how he handles sort of controversial figures like that, I decided, all right, I'll give it a chance. It's a 4-hour conversation. I gave it about 30 minutes. And he did the normal ranting and raving and stuff like that. But in all of that crazy talk, also because like Joe Rogan was sort of acting as a translator to the craziness, you could see that, wait, there's actually, in all of this nonsense, there is actually a person with logic here. Like he's a questioner of things, right? But the problem is he sort of questions everything. So it made me think about, like, it's just unfortunate that Alex Jones is the worst mouthpiece for it. But it made me think about the world we're in now and how you think about our parents and how they looked at things, and it was like whatever was on the news, that's 100% fact, that's something that you believe.
Yeah.
And on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Alex Joneses of the world who question absolutely everything because whatever's on the news is a lie. But yeah, it just made me think about how many times I might have heard something that sounded crazy, and because of, it's either because of the mouthpiece that it's coming from, I didn't give it any credence, and how much responsibility do I now have as a responsible global citizen to like question things? Like is that, I don't know, am I making any sense?
It's just like how nowadays, like our former president, like he died like 20 times because of social media.
The celebrity death.
He died 20 times. And every time you bounce off is him, and he'll be like, yo, you know, I ain't dead, you know. And
but the crazy thing is how it would grow. Like it would be like someone would say it, and rather than it just sort of being dismissed then and there, the rumor would grow.
Yeah.
There would be a considerable amount of people who thought and believed that for sure this man is dead.
yeah. And we'll be sending condolences and everything. I wouldn't say anything, but you know, it's
Wow, you're trash.
okay. So let's go back to this Jones fella.
Mm-hmm.
Is he naturally crazy, or is he just over analytical, or does he just not trust media anymore?
So here's something that's really funny that they were talking about. They were talking about how in general they talk about the idea of conspiracy theorists. Let's talk about it that way. So there's a whole community of them who just sort of like believe that it is only natural and everyone has the right to question everything that is given to you.
Right.
That if you're given this, especially if it's given by a historically trusted source, you should question it. Why would you just eat? Why would you just take it? Why would you just take it at face value?
Right.
And unfortunately, they say that unfortunately in this group of conspiracy theorists, people who are naturally drawn to it are schizophrenics, because you'll have schizophrenics who believe that everything is a conspiracy against them. So unfortunately, it's kind of like when, imagine you have like a very valid point to say about, I don't know, whatever it is. Let's say you have a very valid point that you have, right? And then you feel good about this point and you're like, yeah, this makes sense. And then all of a sudden, R. Kelly says, I stand with Rudy and I believe what Rudy says. You might be like, I still believe in what I say, but I don't want you to, you're not helping.
And that white Steve chapter like, Rudy, I'm with you.
So those people aren't helping the credibility of the argument.
Okay.
But unfortunately, these people do have, and I do think that there is credibility to question everything.
Why is he attracting those people?
Because that's what they naturally are like. They are naturally like, a schizophrenic is naturally
like a
going to
higher
feel-
affinity
for believing that everything is conspiracy against them or whatever. Which doesn't mean that, like, for example, when people talk, like, let's say that people, like, for example, he was one of the people, when the Jussie Smollett thing came out, he was one of the people who was just like, who is walking around who knows how to make a noose in Chicago? Who's doing that? Who is actually doing that? And he was one of the people, but obviously when he said it, everyone was just like, Alex Jones, you're homophobe, right wing, da 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 da.
Right.
But it made some kind of sense. Yeah.
It's like those dudes who think the earth is flat.
It's a good one. Is the earth flat?
I don't know now. Because there's a lot of people, I haven't been to space.
Is global warming real?
I think
It's getting warmer. Today was like 31. So
Did they land on the moon?
Yo, I will fight people.
okay, let's put
This one I will fight. If you what's it called? If you believe that we didn't land on the moon, I have hands. I have hands.
What's your evidence though?
Okay. No, because see, this is where we're
Introducing the troll.
yeah.
I'm not the troll though.
Because we've had this conversation once before, and like, okay, fine, but without, I'm trying not to get too scientific about it.
Get scientific, bro.
Okay, so when you look at the moon landing photos, right?
Right.
Now, in order to give you this effect, if you have that much, the closest, you know, the shadow is much lower, it's hard. The motion is lower, you can see it, it's here. The shadow is
No, literally, when he starts speaking, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah.
Later. The end of his statement.
But basically, for them to have effectively faked the lighting of the moon landing would have required a budget even bigger than it would have taken for them to get to the moon.
Is that fact or theory?
That's fact. That's 100% fact.
What do you think about this moon thing, bro?
I don't care.
That's an interesting one though, because like I do sometimes think about that as well with like certain things that I see. Like for example, like at a certain point, after a while with like even with the R. Kelly story, we keep talking about this dude. Anyway,
Isn't it amazing how he's got real fans because they're bailing him out left, right, and center. Like the first one was the actual case; he got bailed out by Chomis. Then the second one was because he wasn't paying child support.
So even that's a good example of what we're discussing because like the news is then portraying a certain thing and there's people that believe a certain thing. So like similar to Bill Cosby, people are like, no, there was someone's out to get these zones and then set up these zones and they've been taken down by the man because wanted these zones to fall and they portrayed them a certain way in order to get us to believe.
And when it gets too complex for me, like when I start seeing it getting too complex and I'm like, me here in Zimbabwe, I don't care about this. This doesn't affect my life.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Don't care, don't care, don't care, still don't care. I don't care, I don't. I don't care. What'd you say? I just want to know what you said. What did you say? I don't care.
Because now we're getting to whether if something is too far away, do you then even invest in trying to figure it out? So like even the news and politics and people voting and even in Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF is this MDC where the newspapers have two conflicting headlines.
Yeah.
Literally the opposite thing is on one newspaper, that's in the other one, and you're like,
See, my problem.
you need to choose who to believe.
Exactly.
It doesn't
my,
matter.
My
Like,
problem
just leave
is,
it alone.
I just look at the two papers and I'm like, do you find like common ground? What was that math? The math thing where you find a median?
Venn diagram.
I don't know.
No, is it like the Venn
The point
diagram?
is, you find a median.
Where we,
A bell curve. Is that the Venn
like
diagram?
where you have a circle, right? And then you have a circle. So this, let's say that this circle is what Harold is saying.
That's
the
correct.
circle is-
But I don't think that's what he was referring to. But
No.
no, that's good. That's good too.
Okay.
Let's
Go with the Venn
That's good too.
diagram for now.
That's good too. Not this.
So what do you choose to believe? Because you then hear that, there's a billion that's coming to them and you're so excited and you're like, oh my god. But you're used to all the lies that have come before that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? None of us have been to the moon. Let's go back to our moon landing story.
Mm-hmm.
None of us have been there. You know what I mean? And we're basing everything on what someone else has told us. Right? My worry is that person who told us that thing actually wants us to believe whatever they're telling us, whether it's true or false. And now what's happening is your conspiracy theorists, or whatever they're called, are literally the other wing, left wing or the right wing, whatever. You know what I mean? So how then do you now start to... Because I watched a trailer about these people about the flat earth are so passionate. My worry is, why do you think the earth is flat but the moon, round, sun, round, everything else is round except for the earth? I don't know their reasons for it.
So maybe a question. So what do we use to filter our information?
Personally,
Personally
or-
as an individual. Because for instance, like you said, our parents used to listen to the news, believe everything on the news. Modern day, we can't just listen to the news and take what the news says at face value in Zimbabwe. Even in the world. You can't now just be like, okay, America especially has been a big example lately where it seems like different news networks are pushing different agendas and so what do we use to filter the information that we take in?
They just switch off our Wi-Fi.
No info. The end.
I mean, what I have like people that I will watch on. For me, it's mainly I favor like independent news people.
Okay.
And the reason why is because they are less likely to have an agenda, and not only just independent people, but independent people who I feel are as centrist as I am. So rather than giving me the side of the story that they want, they sort of give me as much of the story as they can, and sort of leave me to sort of like draw my own conclusions about it. The only problem is with those independent people is that there are only so many stories that they can tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rudy, how do you filter information?
I don't.
Just take it in.
To be
I
fair,
don't think I take it in either. I think it just comes and I'm like, okay.
You just block it off.
Yeah. Get out of here. It's really weird because it's also where I take my information from. So I'm not a big news at 8, news Zimbabwe or whatever. So some people I work, when I'm in different places, some people I work with will be like, no, it was in the news yesterday. I'm like, so I have to like make a quick decision. Do I lie and pretend like I saw it, or and I'm like, no, fam, sorry, I'm not there.
For this conversation to end quickly.
Yeah, there were still people in like our age group who watched the news at 8.
Where do you get your news from? Okay, so you get it from YouTube.
Yeah, but like also like I say, like I understand what you're saying with the like this you don't take it in, because I definitely feel information overload. Because I feel like sometimes with certain stories, I feel in order for me to get a full picture of the story, I feel like I need to, it's like almost like writing a paper, like where I have to now look at all these different sources and cross-reference each of them in order to figure out if Jordan Woods really did cheat. Like it's nonsense.
Yeah.
Just
Like,
go to the red table, bro. Stop
yeah.
I love Twitter for news, but not news that I take in. I think the only news I actually then do take in fact is someone died, or something that's stone cold hard facts. This has happened.
Unless your president died many times.
No,
unless it's
Tupac.
Once again, the comment section.
He's alive.
Do you think Tupac is dead?
Nah, he's gone. He's gone. The way he used to love Joy so much, guys.
Biggie though. And I'm playing.
Okay, so Twitter, and I know I sound like I'm contradicting myself, but it is based on facts. So the fact that a hospital or you find that every time they spoke about our former president, it would never be your CNNs or your whatever's, and I think they would be like us in terms of being a Scrooge and saying, okay, we'll wait until we see. I don't want to say see the dead body, but we'll wait until we see hard fact. Now, the reason why I then push news away is because I don't even know what's hard fact now. We had this recent tragedy with Ethiopian Airlines.
Tonight, a startling announcement about the 737 MAX air disaster. Ethiopia's transportation minister declaring the crash shows, quote, a clear similarity with the Lion Air crash in Indonesia in October. This after reviewing preliminary data from the black boxes. But data from both incidents right after takeoff showed the planes jolting up and down erratically. Shortly after takeoff, both the Ethiopia and Lion Air flights experienced drops in similar intervals before crashing just after takeoff. It was this data that triggered the FAA to join the rest of the world in grounding the 737 MAX fleet.
And even though you knew what had happened, the amount of fake videos that were going already, and I just said to myself, it's almost like I want to say, okay, whoever published this, do you have no shy? Do you have no respect, for the dead, first and foremost? But it feels like kahanga, throw it out, throw out something.
Which is also fed by the hunger for people to then consume it. Because those people wouldn't matter if there weren't hundreds of people like taking it in and spreading and sharing.
It's consuming, yeah, one thing Nick was saying about sharing it. So yeah, we do consume it whether we verify it or not. We're then quick to send it out again.
Yeah.
The social media.
That's scary.
And then I don't. And like I feel like I'm so careful about what I share. Like just because I've seen like how dangerous it is to like share like wrong information. But even as careful as I am, I've definitely made mistakes sometimes, and I've definitely put out something that wasn't okay. Luckily, it would be like maybe to like a few people who I could then, when they ask me about it later, I can be like, oh no, sorry, I was wrong, or even tell them, no, I was wrong about this. But imagine you've now said like to hundreds of millions of people, like, oh no, like imagine you send a tweet that then gets 1,000 retweets. That's like it doesn't sound like a lot, like in the scope of like people who have like millions of followers, but like that 1,000 people who now have information that they have also retweeted to their circles. That's crazy.
What's your in? The laugh just came out. What's your in?
What's your in, bro?
I would answer, but I have no idea what he's talking about.
Jeez. Take two. And what is your? Oh jeez. Okay, so I mainly look at Twitter. I think Twitter is my main app.
Oh, yes. What's your?
Yes.
Alright, bro.
You got there eventually.
That's probably.
Yeah.
You should play 30 seconds.
I'm quite good at that though. I'll bet.
I think mostly social media and people. So like the YouTubes and other people who then will be sharing information. Yeah, but it's tough. It's real. I think back to our question. So you think it's necessary to have a filter of what news you're believing and or then sharing? Because I remember the other day on a friend of mine's Instagram story, that whole story of YouTube kids videos having the Momo challenge.
Oh,
and
yeah.
A whole lot of don't let your kids watch any YouTube videos because kids are being told to commit suicide and burn stuff and do all sorts of things in these videos. And to then later find out, no, it wasn't really true entirely as it was stated. And it was a whole.
Did someone apologize to Momo? Is Momo a person?
Momo's like a boogeyman. Yeah.
A made up character.
Modern boogeyman.
Yeah. So it was like a whole thing where parents were vehement. Don't let your kids watch YouTube. Kids, it's not safe. It's not safe. It's not safe. When it wasn't entirely true. So yeah, I think it is necessary to then have a filter, or at least to then filter your reaction to the news that you hear. Whether your reaction is to share, whether your reaction is to then act or move, and at least do something to figure out or know. Like you're saying, you don't have to do research papers to find out whether something is true or not, because there's so much of it going around.
Sorry to sound or to bring controversy into it. Who's that lady who's been taking photos and she's like half naked or naked? She's Zimbabwean, but she's not in Zimbabwe.
I think she is in Zimbabwe. Her name is the artist. She performed at Unplugged. She had some video where it was very sexual, very raunchy.
Hapana kwa unoenda nas. Hapana kwa unoenda nas. Hapana kwa unoenda nas. Hapana kwa unoenda.
The images that got posted on social media, obviously she had a purpose for those images, right?
When was this?
Recent.
So there was a day you posted a picture, I think she's leaning forward.
She's like on a beach and
bum up, and it's like to the families of the Ethiopian Airways, Chapel condolences.
You're lying! You're
I don't
lying!
know if it's real. I don't know if it's real or just being a spam.
Yes, that's another point, because it could be that she could have just done that for
her picture for something
else, and someone's taken that and now.
Extra.
But the worst part is it's believable.
Yeah,
It's
that's the
believable.
thing.
I don't know if she did it or not, but there are definitely people who do that sort of thing.
So before that one came out, she had another one where she had her legs crossed or whatever. You don't see the assets or whatever, but you can tell that she's naked. And then I was driving and I heard her on radio. And people were just posting comments about the picture on radio, right? And people were outraged. No, why is she naked? No. This is not culture. And So my issue is, one, why did she post it? What was her reason for posting? And what was the outcome of the whole post? We spoke about the Kardashian thing, and that sex tape. Well, we weren't talking about that sex tape, but we were talking about the fact that could that sex tape have propelled the Kardashians' career, leading to this one getting $1 billion? But my point is, what was her reason for posing naked? But what has happened to her career, or what is happening to her now? What's the reaction to her now that social media has taken over these images? We don't even know whether she was doing bum up to the Ethiopians or not. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden, guys, what sort of outrage is it going to cause? What would you have thought?
That's the world we live in.
Because the first thing he did was laugh.
That's funny.
You see what I mean?
You're funny.
But I don't think she would have done that.
Baby, that shirt, baby, time, baby,
So what was your question? What was it like your conclusion to that to this entertainment segment that you gave us? What were you asking? Greedy.
I wasn't asking anything.
You were just putting things forward. Cool.
I'm probably the least tech savvy person in this room. I use Twitter. I look at people's pictures on Instagram, I don't know. My niece, who is my daughter, uses my Snapchat. I don't know what the password is. I use Facebook for business. I use Safari just to look at pictures and stuff. You know what I mean? And then I occasionally go onto the Sun UK because they have a good sports segment. So in terms of me, what I want to take in, maybe that's the filter. Maybe I do have a filter because it's what I've already chosen.
It's curated.
I will take it. So each and every app has its own purpose.
Yeah.
If I want to see people shouting at each other, I'll go to Twitter because Zimbabweans in Twitter, we're really good at that.
You know what I think? You made me think about it. Like when you say that it's curated, I think it has to, because one thing that I will not accept is like one person, like let me not say one person, but like one company telling me for 30 minutes that these are the most important stories of the day. Like it's not for those maybe the most important stories of the day for maybe 10 million people, like, and I'm being very generous, but there are literally billions of us on this planet. Like there's no way that some people are like, yeah, I mean, you've seen like on like 60, like some of these things on CNN where they'll have like a special for like 15 minutes on like people who raise horses or something like that. I mean, it's fascinating, but who the hell cares? Really? Like
Shirley and Philip.
Yeah.
Buckinghamshire.
Yeah. So like I mean I can't, but I think to bring up the thing about curation, I think it should be something that we should criticize each other for. Maybe this is me making a very strong statement here, but the easiest way that I can put it is, for the longest time, the media was controlled by a certain amount of people. When I say controlled, I don't mean it in the sinister sense. I just mean that, like, let's say in the 90s, it was very hard for you to tell a story to millions of people about a certain place or thing or event unless you had access to a television station. And even if you had access to that television station, that would only be to that certain region if it was unless it was a CNN or something like that. So now we are in an age where everyone can sort of like say whatever they want. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think about there are two contradicting ideas about Africa that still exist. In cognitive dissonance, it makes no sense when you really think about it. Where Africa is this suffering, war-torn place, and it's like really, it's poverty stricken. But also Africa is this hub of culture, and it's the wave of music, and it's a place where people will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to who are from these other areas. It's not that the two ideas it's not that one idea is more important than the other, but we're now learning that the world exists in more nuance than perhaps a 30-minute news show could give us.
But does that one media, or does one media portray Africa in both lights? So does CNN give the crap and then also say, hey, this is the place to be?
They try. There was that. Did you hear that? The criticism of what do you call it? Of the Wall Street Journal, where they said that when there was some attack that happened in Kenya recently. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly what it was. But there was the attack that happened, and then on the front pages of the New York Times, there were dead African bodies, right? And if the similar thing happened in the States, where it was like a shooting at a school or something like that, they wouldn't show those dead bodies. And so Kenya was up in a lot of, especially social media, people were up in arms about like, oh, why are you showing this? So yeah, that's kind of the whole thrust of it, or at least what we have to say about it. So I think we get a better idea, or like I think we never really want to decide stuff on here. It's better for us to have like a discussion. So if you can please just like give us your thoughts on WhatsApp, on Twitter, let us know the numbers and the links and stuff are either flashing across the screen or in a link down there. Post. It's all in post. But yeah. Or if you're just listening to it, then
077.
Alright, this is trash. Yeah.
You're trash.
But anyway, yeah, that's uncommon sense.
Uncommon language.
See you next time.
Okay, so we're gonna do the outro now.